Hello out there, welcome to episode 6 of Voice of Double Degree, brought to you by the Double Degree Club. My name is Jesse Knight, and this is Addis here. And basically, Addis is going to talk to us today about his fixed income security desk position at Deutsche Bank in Toronto. So without further ado, Addis, I'd just like to ask you, give me a little description about your job last term.
All right, sounds good. Well, as a trading assistant, which is my main position, I did a bit of everything to support the traders. So I would talk to institutional clients over the phone, do some statistical analysis for them, and I had a few big projects that I was working on as well throughout the year. Pretty much the best thing about the job, and I know we'll get to that, but is that I got to work very closely with a lot of senior traders. So that's pretty much it. I'm sure we'll get more into it during the interview.
Okay, great. Actually, I'm just going to go off a little topic right now. What was the difficulty level coming out of, you just came out of 2A term of double degree, now we're in 2B, so last co-op was our first one, I believe.
Yep.
So basically the difficulty level, was it pretty high at the stand?
Absolutely. Well, it was a big learning curve. Coming out of 2A, you learn, for example, BU 111, you learn about some financial terms. I did some statistics courses as well, but it prepares you somewhat for the position, but you have to be hitting the ground running. When it comes to fixed income securities, you really have to know what you're doing with the statistical analysis I was doing as well. You have to know sort of things like regression analysis, R-squared values, pretty basic stuff, but from where we were, where I was at least, it was a steep learning curve, but once you got there, it wasn't too bad. It was a great learning experience overall.
Awesome. So I guess most people, maybe while you're watching the video, is the stereotypes of a trader or investment banker, so in this case trader. Do you want to just enlighten us with whether the stereotypes are true, the late hours or whatnot, or anything like that?
Absolutely. Well, when it comes to investment banking, I know you work long hours, but with trading, you start very early. When the market's open, you got to be ready to go. But you start very early in the morning. You're preparing. You're making sure that you have a good lay of the land. You know what's going to happen today, and you look at the information that's coming out. But when the markets close, you don't have too much to do. You look at your P&L report, for example, things like that. But you're generally going home pretty early, actually. So I'd say maybe 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. would be a good representation. And I work from around 7 until 6. That's perhaps what you'd expect as a co-op.
And I guess one thing I'm kind of interested in is what was the level of work that you had to bring home maybe on weekends or after work?
Sure. Well, work stayed generally at work. I just as a personal preference, I'd like to keep work at work. So I tried to do as much as I could. And there's always someone in the office. Like, you're generally not going to be the last one there. So you could theoretically take home a lot of work if you wanted to, but it's just not my style.
Just depends on the person, I guess.
That's right, yeah.
All right, so as you said earlier, we'll get into the little nitty-gritties. What were some of the highs of your job, what you really took out of it, what you really liked about it?
Absolutely. Well, one of the most interesting things about my job was I got to talk to institutional clients from banks, all over the world, and it was an awesome experience. I got to book tickets as well on behalf of the fixed income securities desk. So, biggest ticket I booked was for $1 billion. And it's very cool to work with that sort of scale of operation. I also got to work with something called DB Analytics, which is our analytics tool that we use for doing sort of quantitative analysis. Sort of getting a look at that gave me a nice preview for what's to come ahead in double degree, like Black-Scholes model, things like that. So that was a great learning experience for me, and those projects really helped me sort of feel like a real trader and get my foot in the door.
All right. Good stuff. So we talked about the highs, now we're going to move to the lows. Any lows in your job? Any things that you didn't like necessarily might keep you from going back or anything
Absolutely.
like that?
Well, the hours were pretty tough. It's tough to balance a life. If you were commuting especially, luckily I live right in downtown Toronto, but you are working from 7 till 6 pretty much every day, and on the weekends sometimes you are doing some work, regardless of whether or not you want to. So it's pretty tough to balance the social life, and as well it's quite stressful during the job. There are times throughout the day where it feels like everything's happening at once. You might have 2 clients on the phone, your broker might be talking to you, your boss might be telling you, you got to speed it up there, and it just... I remember one time, and this is kind of going off a tangent, there was a fire alarm going, and the building was being evacuated, and I was still taking 2 calls, my boss was still standing over my shoulder, and making sure the cash position was okay. I was still booking tickets through, and everyone was gone, and it's pretty intense.
So at what point would you leave the building for the fire?
Well, okay, I'm going on record saying I should have. My boss encouraged me to leave, right with everyone else, but there was still work to be done. So you got to keep working.
That's a true Dolby. So basically, as I said, you're only in 2B as of myself. Did you find any advantages with the course we've taken so far? Maybe in comparison to just someone who's just doing business, not the math side?
Absolutely. Well, things like statistical analysis, like what I was looking at was, and this is very basic because I don't know much about stats, but pretty much what I was looking at was how closely do economic indicators match up with sort of real economic data, and things like Stat 230 or 231 really help to do this task really effectively, and just sort of getting up to speed and getting over that learning curve. Having a diverse degree like DD, which is quite academically rigorous, was excellent preparation, in my opinion.
All right. So I'm going to ask you one question. We'll lead to the next question. It was your first co-op, so did you have hopes in mind to get a finance job, or was it more just that was the job you kind of ended up with?
Well, to be honest, I didn't apply to too many finance jobs. It was my first co-op term, as you mentioned, so I didn't really think I'd get many co-op jobs in finance. But, I think if you apply to jobs, there's no harm in doing it, and it turned out very well for me. I can't say that, I'm probably going to go back or that it was my first choice, but it was an excellent experience. I'm really glad that I did it.
All right. So, leading from that, what were some of the things that you found made you successful in being able to secure that position at Deutsche?
Absolutely. Well, the cover letter and the whole resume process, I'm not really sure what they saw in me. Hopefully they saw some stuff, but I don't know. But in the interview, my future boss, or my boss, he had some key points, I think, that for succeeding in trading or for succeeding as a co-op in sort of a trading environment, and he had two main things. The first thing was you got to be able to work hard, and it should show in your academics, it should show in the way that you carry yourself. And number two, which is also very important, which I found, was that you got to be able to deal with a lot of pressure and deal with situations where things aren't going so well. So, there's a lot of examples where one of my bosses, for example, was not doing so well in the markets that day. Mm-hmm. You got to put it behind you, and you got to just focus on the next day. That's the thing about trading. You got to have a short memory. So, yeah.
Very good tip to cap this off. Well, thank you, Addis, for coming on the show today.
No problem.
We'll conclude this one. Thanks, everyone.